How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to that car vlog channel. If you don't already know, I'm Andy, and today's vehicle is a 2013 Toyota FJ Cruiser. This is probably one of the coolest SUVs Toyota ever made, and I distinctly remember when these were new. I was still a teenager, fairly new driver, and I thought it was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. I'm sure you've seen these things driving around everywhere, thought, wow, those things are cool or weird, or I don't know, depending on who you are, maybe even ugly. I don't think they're ugly. Maybe you wanted to know more about them. Well, here in this video, we're gonna check this thing out. Begin with a full walk around tour of this car, check out all of its features and all the crazy things that make it to the FJ Cruiser, and then we'll get out on the road and see what it's like to drive this beast. So let's get started. Special thanks to Twin Cities Certified of Maryville, Tennessee for providing the vehicle for today's review. Be sure to check them out at the link in the description below. Now, the FJ Cruiser was produced for model years 2007 through 14. And the design of this vehicle was actually inspired by Toyota's original Land Cruiser from the 60s to 70s, codenamed the FJ40. And as you can see, you look at the nose of this thing, you can clearly tell that it has those touches. Has the headlights in here towards the middle, kind of like, you know, the Jeeps have always had in the early Land Cruisers that were supposed to be Jeep-like, with, of course, your turn signals out to the side. The FJ40 was, of course, an incredibly durable, incredibly capable off-road vehicle to compete with the Jeep. And of course, Toyota made sure to do the same thing on the four-wheel drive models of the modern FJ Cruiser. Under this hood is a 4-liter V6 producing 250 horsepower, mated to your choice of a 6-speed automatic, as this one is equipped, or a 6-speed manual. They're also available in either 2 or 4-wheel drive, although I can't understand why you would get a 2-wheel drive FJ Cruiser. I mean, unless you just like the looks of it and you don't need 4-wheel, who knows? So let's start as usual with the exterior styling of the vehicle, and we'll start here up front. Now, like I said before, your headlights and signals are meant to mimic the original FJ40 Land Cruiser. You know, your headlights are set a little more inward, where your turn signals are out to the side. You know, kind of a throwback to that. Also, instead of your modern Toyota badge, you have Toyota script written across the front grille, just as it would have been back then before they actually came out with the modern Toyota badge. Down here you can see the design of the bumper allows for the wheels to be seen very clearly. The way this is designed, you get a really nice approach angle for off-roading in this thing. If we come up to the windshield, we're going to see one of the craziest parts of the entire car, one of the craziest designs here, and that's your windshield wiper situation. So what you've got is a very upright windshield. I mean, this thing, I don't even think this thing achieves a 45-degree angle. I don't even think it achieves a 30-degree angle. But it's very upright. It's kind of short because of how upright it is, and of course it's the full width of the car. So 2 wipers wouldn't have worked. So Toyota, in their awesome wisdom, just added a 3rd wiper, so you get 3 windshield wipers. And as you can see, if we turn them on, they all move in the exact same pattern that a 2 windshield wiper setup would, except you have 3. Very distinctive feature of this car, and this is something you almost never see on any vehicle. Still, to this day, even 2022, one of the coolest features on any car, I think anyway. And now here's a good one on the side of the FJ. Your side view mirrors have this little light in them. And at the time this thing came out, I thought, like a lot of people probably did, that this was going to be some cool light, you know, a trail light of sorts, but that's not at all what this thing is. It's just a light they put in the mirror. I don't know if they intended it for it to be and couldn't make it happen or what, but instead you get this kind of dim, lame light in here. Fortunately, there have been aftermarket companies since this thing was built that have released and now sell aftermarket upgrades, so you can actually turn this thing into a bright trail light. They sell LED versions now. So if you wanted to, you could buy one of these and upgrade this thing. You could actually have some pretty sweet trail lights on your side view mirrors. Look from the side profile, you can tell this is not an incredibly long vehicle. It doesn't have a very long wheelbase. All of these that were not a Trail Teams edition, and we'll get to the Trail Teams edition in a minute, all of them had this white roof, and then the rest of the car was a different color. Now this particular color is kind of cool. It's the army green color. I think it's really neat for an off-road vehicle. The door situation is kind of unique because, of course, you have a full-size front door like any vehicle, and then much like an extended cab pickup truck or maybe the Honda Element, you have this little half door in the rear that kind of swings downward in a way. Of course, that has to be closed before you can close and latch the front door. You also see here, this C-pillar is huge. The C-pillar is massive. It's going to be kind of an obstruction to, you know, side visibility, backwards side visibility, but it is a kind of a cool design element. And I suppose it's pretty structural too. I do like these wheels. These are kind of cool looking wheels. I want to get a close up of the taillight situation. On the later years of the FJ, this is what it looked like. You kind of had your ring of red for your tail and brake lamp and your turn signal in the center of that. and your backup light off to the side. I kind of like this better than the early ones. The early cars, a solid red lens here for the brake light, and then this area kind of shared your reverse and turn signal lights. I do like this one a bit better. We'll talk about the rear of the FJ in a little bit more detail now. So first of all, you get your full-size spare tire mounted to the back. It's not inside the cargo area, it's not underneath. It's right here on the back, easy access, which, I mean, if you have an off-road SUV, is exactly what you want. You don't want to have it underneath, you don't have it inside, taking up cargo space. You want it right here, easily accessible if you're off-road. Now, before we open the big tailgate, let's talk about the things on the outside. First of all, tiny little rear windshield wiper. Tiniest thing in the world. Of course, with the way this thing's designed, it's really the only area that it needs to cover. Now, this glass actually will open independently of the tailgate. So if we take our key and put it in here, now turn it to the left, that's the unlock position for the entire rear gate. Turn it to the right, that's the lock position. If we turn it to the right and hold it, then the glass pops open. And you can actually open this glass independently from the gate. Now, it's kind of a high reach. You can reach in here and sort of touch the floor. So you could probably use that to put smaller items in there, just really quick access. But this spare tire might be a hindrance too. But it's nice to see that they at least thought of that and gave you an opening rear glass. Now, as far as the rear gate as a whole, this is not one that lifts up. Obviously, you're not going to want to have to lift this thing up with a tire on the back of it. Instead, if we just put our hand under here and pull this latch, it actually swings outward to the left. Make it so you don't have to, you know, try to lift that whole thing up with a tire on or anything like that. Now, it's kind of a high load floor because it is an off-road four-wheel drive vehicle, but that's not a problem. Your only worry is if someone's parked too close behind you, if you're too close to a wall or a nice car or something, swinging this gate open. Now, another interesting feature on this gate is on this strut that holds it open. So if I reach behind and pull this thing, that's actually going to lock this gate from being able to close. You see, no matter how hard I try, I cannot close this gate. If I just push it back, I can close the gate again. So, kind of a cool touch. If you're worried about the gate closing on you, just pull on that thing, you don't have to worry about a thing. All right, before we climb in the car, let's talk about the key as usual. This is actually a one-piece key and key fob. Of course, being 2013, there's a lot of vehicles that still aren't gonna have the keyless go type of thing where, you know, you just push a button inside to start or push a button on the door. You do still have to unlock the doors, but you've got your panic here, your lock, unlock right here in the body of the key. Get in, we pull on this big door handle, as the Toyota trucks like to have, and start looking at the interior. And the first thing you notice when you open the interior is it's not exceptionally nice. You know, it's made to be rugged, it's made to be off-roady. It's not supposed to be nice. I love how they brought the exterior color into the interior of the truck. So you see on the door panel, you got an insert that's got that army green color in it. If we look at the bezel around the radio, same thing. You got that army green color repeated inside. So you get to have a little bit of the outside on the inside of the truck as well. Kind of cool. Looking at the door panel again, you know, you do have power windows, power locks. An interesting design on the speaker grille, which is repeated throughout the car. Here's your door sills, here's your floors. Kind of an interesting design there. Coming across the dash, first of all, look at this dash. It's this big, upright, trucky, rugged dash. No flowing designs, no fancy stuff. It's meant to be a rugged car, and it's meant to look really tough and really cool, and it does. You see your climate vents are mounted up here, right on the edges. Control to decide whether or not you're gonna get airflow is right here on the side of the vents. It's this big thing, you just turn up and down, turn on or off the airflow. Over here, you got some standard controls. You do also have power mirrors in this thing, which is nice. There's your gauge brightness adjuster. Of course, it is a tilt wheel, which is very nice. On the wheel itself, you got some radio controls and some phone controls over here on the passenger side. And down below that, in classic Toyota style, is where your cruise controls are. Our 2018 Highlander has this exact, actually, I think it has this a very almost exactly the same control in the same place. Up here in the gauge cluster, nothing really special up here. You're just your standard array of gauges, you know, your tack and speedo and everything, all the information you need to know, including your automatic indicator to tell you where your gear selector is. I do like these white face gauges. They're kind of sporty, kind of good looking. As we continue across the dash, you can see the central climate vents located in pretty much the same place as the edges. You get a digital clock in the middle of them, pretty basic deal there. Here's your factory Toyota radio. Nothing really special about this. We turn that on, turn the sound off. And of course, the camera just absolutely loves that display. You can see what it's doing to it. It's this orange display, nothing special. You do have the CD player in it, AM, FM, all that good stuff. And once again, since you have the phone controls on the wheel, you can also sync your phone up to this thing. Kind of nice. Some big buttons off to the side of that for your hazards, your rear defogs, massive controls for your climate control. I mean, these things are big knobs. Now, I want to go up on top of the dash real quick. So here in front of the driver is kind of interesting. You've got a little storage compartment in front of the driver, which luckily with it up, it doesn't obstruct your view that much, but it still does. But interesting that they put that there. Not many cars put that there. Most of them put it here, except here Toyota has put some other things. So what Toyota decided to put in the middle instead of that storage compartment is some off-roady gauges. So here on the left, you got a compass. In the center, you got your temp gauge. And on the right, you've got a pitch and roll gauge. Kind of cool. So it'll tell you kind of how your truck's leaning, either left, right, forward, backwards, as you're tackling those trails off-road. Now down here below the radio center stack, you got just a bunch of typical buttons for most vehicles. There's a few blanks here, not sure what would be there. I think one of them would be a subwoofer button. This thing does have a subwoofer in the rear, but there's no button to turn it on or off. Here's your traction control, your rear diff locker, very cool. Parking sensors if you want to turn those off for some reason, and a button to turn on the 120 volt plug in the back. This thing does have a built-in power inverter, so you can turn that on to power things in the rear of the car. Over here, you get a 12 volt round for charging and powering things. And here's a USB and auxiliary input for your radio. Over here on the passenger side, pull up in this glove compartment, and you can see it's not incredibly huge. It's decently sized, though it's not too small. You got some owner's manuals in there. Nothing special in here, though. Moving back from the center stacks here, here's our big, I mean, this thing is a huge automatic transmission lever. I'm not really sure what position to make it this huge and interesting looking. But there it is. You see next to that your four-wheel drive selector. No knobs or buttons here. This is a physical lever you have to pull to engage four-wheel drive. Another thing I like here is an actual mechanical parking brake. No buttons or anything like that. No electronics. It's just a parking brake. Now you do have dual cup holders, although they are oriented kind of interestingly because you have one way up here next to the four-wheel drive lever, and one back here behind the gear selector. So probably this one's more geared towards the passenger maybe. Behind that, you have a little bit of center console storage. It is open storage. There is no cover. And there's this thing that pulls out, acts kind of as a divider, so you can kind of section off the crap you're throwing in your center console. A couple of interesting things to show you up here. Now here's your rear view mirror. Now this just looks like a typical rear view mirror. It's 2013, so you know, automakers hadn't really started into the digital rear view mirror camera things yet. But interestingly, if I throw this thing in reverse, suddenly a tiny little backup camera display appears in the left side of the mirror. And this thing is not great. It's very small, it's very grainy, it's not all that great. I mean, it's 2013. You see, it says check surroundings for safety like it has to for rear view cameras. But it is there, and it will offer you a little extra peace of mind. Say if a kid or an animal ran out behind you while you're attempting to back up, you're gonna see a bit more than you would through that small rear window with that big spare tire mounted on the gate. That does kind of hinder visibility a little bit. I'm gonna try to show you here. You can see how it kind of hinders visibility a bit. So that camera can definitely add a little bit of peace of mind, but it's definitely not a great. Now, if we move over from our rear view mirror, you're of course gonna have a sun visor. All cars have a sun visor in them, and this one's even got a little mirror here so you can look at yourself, and a card holder built into the mirror cover. That's cool. But there's something interesting about this. So if we pull this off to the side, which of course again you can do on all cars, you're going to see you're sitting so far back and this window is so long, this thing doesn't cover, it probably doesn't cover half of it. So how in the world what do you do in that situation? Toyota thought of that and put in a second sun visor right here. So now it covers most of the window. You see from where I'm sitting, there's a little bit exposed here, but most of the window is now covered with sun visor. Kind of cool. Most cars don't do this. I think all cars should offer a secondary sun visor, you know, anyway, because these things never cover the entire window. All right, now we're gonna get into the back seat. Now, once again, in order to access the rear seat, you must first have the front door open, and then reach in here. There's a kind of a handle latch you pull, and it opens the door up. So here's that kind of big handle you pull. Now you see your front seat belts are attached to this door, so of course it has to be in place to buckle up. If you did want to let somebody in the rear, you are going to have to unbuckle. Now if I climb in here, oh, unlike the Honda Element, it's not incredibly roomy back here. I can sit here for short periods of time. I am sitting behind myself right now. I'm just maybe a little over 6 foot tall. So you're not going to get incredibly large people in the back seat of this truck. You're going to want to put kids back here, short folks, and even they're probably going to have not the best time back here. No one's going to want to spend a lot of time back here, but it is here if you do need to carry extra people. Headroom, however, is actually pretty good, phenomenal actually. You've got almost a whole hand width of headroom, at least for someone like me. That much headroom. So, I mean, not too bad. All right, now if we look at this rear door panel, there's not a lot to see back here. You do have a sort of cup holder, although it says to only put a bottle in it. And you have a little something down here that's kind of shaped like maybe another cup or bottle holder, but not very much going on in this door. Of course, there is your door release. Looking at the seat backs, your driver's seat back has nothing on it, but your passenger seat does have this mesh storage pocket on the back, which is kind of nice. Looking at this again, it will seat 3 people on this back row, but they're gonna have to be somewhat small people. All right, let's get back to the rear and talk about the cargo area in this thing. There's not a whole heck of a lot to discuss. We talked about this shock, which, you know, if you pull that and lock it, it won't come back on you. I think I'll do that just in case. Otherwise, it's a decent sized cargo area. It's not exactly massive, but it is there. Now, if you were to push this lever here and drop your headrest, and then push this button over here and drop your rear seats, once those fold all the way down, you get a whole lot more cargo. You can see there's cargo tie downs on the back of those seats. The whole area, including the back of the seats, does have that same texture we saw up front, kind of grippy, kind of off-road looking. You get a lot of tie downs in here. There's some more below the seats. Here's some back here near the back of the cargo area. Here's even some plastic ones up here on the side, on the driver's side. On the passenger side is the subwoofer part of your JBL sound system. So this is actually a pretty good sounding system. I kind of played with the radio a little bit before starting the video. But once again, as I say in my reviews, this being YouTube, you're just gonna take my word for it. All right, let's jump back under the hood now to talk about the powertrain in a little bit more detail. So what you see in front of you is a 4-liter V6 engine producing 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. Not exactly an insane amount of horsepower. Of course, it is a V6, it's naturally aspirated, but it's enough to pull this thing around just fine, and it's plenty enough for the trail. I do like the engine cover, how they kind of made it look like it's mimicking the 6 cylinders, the 6 pistons. They did that on the later model years of the FJ, and even now into the modern 4Runners, the engine cover still looks exactly like that. Kind of a cool touch, not exactly necessary, but it kind of looks good. Now, this engine was mated to your choice of a 6-speed automatic, as this one is equipped, or a 6-speed manual, which of course you're gonna want the manual, but I cannot find very many manuals for sale. You could also get these in 4-wheel drive, as you should for a truck like this, or 2-wheel drive. I've seen plenty of 2-wheel drives for sale, and you know, I didn't want to review those ones. I'll say that much. Now, like I said, this is a very reliable, you know, very popular engine. Toyota is still in 2022 using this exact same 4-liter engine in its 4Runners, and we all know that those things are crazy popular, crazy valuable, and these FJs are actually holding a pretty good value too, because everybody's crazy about off-road SUVs. Everybody wants to get off the paved road and, you know, go on adventures, and this is the kind of vehicles they want. Now, if you're wondering about fuel economy, which I would not recommend worrying about in a vehicle like this, obviously big 4-liter V6 and a 4-wheel drive SUV, not going to be great, especially with an automatic. You're talking about mid to upper teens, 16, 17, 18 city, maybe about 20-ish, about 20 actually on the highway. So you're not getting exceptional fuel economy, but that's not what you buy this thing for. You buy this thing to go off-road, and you buy it to be rugged, to be cool, to look cool. And that's exactly what this thing is built for, and it's exactly what it does. Now, as far as pricing, now back when these things came out, they were starting into the low to mid $20,000. Of course, you add options, you add things like Trail Teams Edition and whatnot, then you're gonna add cost to that. Now these things are holding a pretty good value. Again, they're incredibly popular. This particular example is priced at about $39,000. Now, this thing only has 50,000 miles on it for a car that's almost 10 years old. So that's pretty good. You know, most people drive the absolute heck out of these things, pile miles on them because you can. So 50,000 miles, this is a very nice example. Now, a quick online search will tell you exactly what these things are going for. So here I'm finding some early 07 models with high mileage, still going for, I mean, this one here's got 238,000 miles, still going for 14,000. Here's an 08 with 135,000 for 17 grand. Another 14 with 126,000 going for about 32 grand. A 14 with 84,000 going for 37.5. So, I mean, these things are still holding value, and these are all just local Knoxville, Tennessee pricing. You know, here's another 13 in the same color, 114,000 miles for 28 grand. Here's another 07 base with 184,000 miles going for 15. So these things definitely do hold their value very well. I want to talk about something special about the FJs. Now, every year, Toyota released a Trail Teams edition of the FJ, which was kind of cool. It featured upgraded Toyota off-road TRD wheels and tires. It offered a cool little black applique on the hood to give it a little bit of different style. But the biggest way you can tell a Trail Teams model truck is, first of all, you're gonna have a small Trail Teams badge on the back of the tailgate above the handle. But if you ever see a completely solid color FJ Cruiser where it doesn't have the white roof, it's color matched to the rest of the car, that's most likely a Trail Teams edition. Each year, Toyota released a Trail Teams edition and had a special color for that year. One year was a red. As an example, for this 2013, that year's color would have been a cement gray color, and the whole truck from top to bottom would have been a cement gray color. So kind of cool. If you want to spend a little bit more money, have something kind of unique, different from the rest of the FJ Cruisers for any particular year, you would have wanted to get the Trail Teams edition. Definitely a cool looking truck, but still, I mean, the FJ Cruiser is cool looking no matter if you get the Trail Teams or not. All right, so that's all the features, the walk around, the tour, everything you need to know about the FJ. Now it's time to get this thing on the road and do something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager in high school, and drive this thing. All right, time to drive the FJ. Let's just go ahead and give it some gas right away. Takes a minute to kick in. So obviously it's not an incredibly fast vehicle. I mean, it's a four-wheel drive SUV with 250 horsepower, but it's more than enough power to get it up, get it out of the way, get up to speed safely, no problem. And like I said before, it's gonna be more than enough power for off-road use. It's not incredibly fast, but it's also not a slouch. This thing is really cool to drive. I like this thing. And there goes another blue one right there. It's a good looking truck. Let's talk about what it's like being inside of this thing. Now, first of all, out over the hood, it's a cool view, especially looking at the 3 windshield wipers. You got these off-road gauges and stuff right in front of you, that weird storage compartment. That windshield is a mile in front of you. It's kind of interesting, but it's no big deal. Side view mirrors are nice. They're decently sized. You can see well next to you. If you did decide to tow with this thing, you could probably pull that off pretty well. Now, looking behind you, if you needed to look behind you, that's a whole nother thing, because that massive C-pillar that I showed you earlier from the outside is creating a huge blind spot. Now, it does have, like you saw, small rear windows behind those C-pillars, but if you turn and look, those windows are blocked by the rear seat headrest. And then this side window in front of the C-pillar on the rear doors is also partially blocked by the passenger headrest. So pretty much from the B-pillar back, or where there would be a B-pillar, from where the doors meet back, is pretty much one huge blind spot. So you want to kind of be aware of that if you're driving this thing. Be a little more aware of your surroundings. Just really be careful, because you've got a huge blind spot. This rear view mirror, I had it adjusted and it's not adjusted anymore. There we go. Out the rear, it's kind of a tight view. You got a really small rear window as it is, and then you put that spare tire and the little hump below the window that kind of, you know, matches the bodywork to the shape of the tire. That causes kind of a hindrance in rear visibility. So your best visibility in this car is out the front and to the sides. That is absolutely phenomenal. Your side view mirrors are going to give you more rearward visibility than pretty much anything else. Thankfully, it does have that backup camera view in the rearview mirror, although it's very small and not exactly great. It is there just as a little added peace of mind. As far as comfort, it's decently comfortable. I mean, these seats aren't those of a luxury car or anything like that. That's not what it's about, but it's a decently nice place to sit. It's definitely nothing I'm going to complain about. It does have a truck-like suspension, you know, ride feel to it, because, well, it's a truck. It's an off-road vehicle. So expect to feel that as well. But you are sitting relatively high up in this thing. It's not like you're sitting way high up in a jacked up four-wheel drive truck, you know, diesel truck or anything. But you're sitting high enough up that you can pretty much see everything around you. You feel like you're in something cool. And if you are in this thing, you are in something cool. This is just a really cool ride. Now, talking about the price. Now, once again, this is a 2013, so it's the second to last year of production. It's got 50,000 miles on it, which is amazing for any Toyota product, really, but especially one of these, because people who have these drive them. So $39,000, $40,000 as this one is priced. Is that a decent value? Maybe. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the market is right now on these things. These things started out in the low to mid $20,000 range, and that was back in 07. Now, if you adjust that price, let's put in a price of $25,000 in 2007 to 2022 money, you're talking right around $35,700, so $35,000. So really, this one's not priced insanely above the 2022 equivalent to 07 pricing, but still almost 40 grand for a truck that at this point is 9 years old, almost 10 years old, and has 50,000 miles on it. You definitely need to decide if that's something you want to spend. If I was in the market for one of these, I might do that. Of course, I might look for a slightly higher mileage truck that's going to cost me less, under $20,000. Remember, this is a 4-liter Toyota V6, so reliability, you know, and longevity are not going to be a concern as long as you take care of it and just, you know, do the basic maintenance on it. These things can run forever. And that's that's probably the biggest reason why they're so valuable, why people want them so much. If I was in the market for it, if I could buy another vehicle, I think I would definitely buy one of these. I've always thought these things were cool, and I've always not so secretly wanted one. Let's see how stable this thing is. So let's do this view here, and yeah, there's a good amount of body roll, which you're going to expect out of a vehicle like this. Once again, it's not a sports car, but you know, it's kind of did have to test that. You're going to get some body roll out of this thing, no question. Still, it's a cool ride. I like this thing, and I wish I could take it home, honestly. Now, another nice thing about this truck, and something that'll do it very well off-road, is this turning radius. Now, I've got it turned all the way to the left. I hope this comes across on camera from the inside, because this thing has a pretty nice tight turning radius. It's a short wheelbase, kind of lifted up, you know, so it's got the clearance to turn the wheels. And yeah, this thing's got a fairly tight turning radius, so this thing's definitely going to help you off-road. Now, it's not going to get you as tight as like the new Bronco that has that feature that locks the inner rear wheel for a turn to really get you the tightest possible turning radius. But I think it comes pretty close. It feels pretty tight. So once again, if you're wondering how capable it is off-road, well, there you go. It's also got a nice tight turning radius. So it's got the four-wheel drive, it's got the ground clearance, it's got the turning radius, and of course it's got that Toyota reliability. So I wouldn't hesitate to take this thing off-road. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that for this test, and that's okay by me. I know these things are good. All right, y'all, so there you have it. There's a full tour of the 2013 Toyota FJ Cruiser. This is a cool ride. I know I say that in a lot of my videos about a lot of cool cars. I tell you how cool it is, and I say it a lot. But this thing really is. Regardless of what you think about how it looks, I think it looks cool as hell, and a lot of other people do too. You may think it's ugly, and it may not be the prettiest thing in the world, but it's definitely not the ugliest thing. It looks really, really cool. I've really enjoyed this thing. If I could afford to buy another vehicle, I would definitely consider this. Although there's a lot of cars I would consider, let's just face it. Anyway, if you've been looking at one of these, you've been thinking I might want one, and you've been wondering about these things, I hope this video helped answer a lot of your questions, and I hope it provided all the information you were looking for. What a great effort by Toyota to do a throwback to the original FJ40 Land Cruiser. And I think they did a really good job in the styling department, especially up front, and then inside, making it a cool place to sit and a cool vehicle to experience. Anyways, y'all, hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you want to see more videos from me on this channel, more reviews, I've got some pretty cool stuff up on the channel right now. Go back to the channel and check that out when you're done here. Once again, huge thanks to Twin City Certified of Maryville, Tennessee for allowing me to use this vehicle for this review today. If you want to check out their inventory, there will be a link in the description to their website so you can check this out as well as everything else they got. They've got some pretty nice inventory here. If you like what you see here and on the rest of the channel, make sure you subscribe to it if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell. Follow over on Instagram and Facebook at That Car Vlog channel. All great ways to get notified when new videos go up. And if you happen to have anything that you'd be willing to let me review and drive on the channel, hit me up at my email address in the description below. I'll see if I can't work something out. I've always got a link to a list of cars that I've thought of that I'd be interested in reviewing and driving on the channel. So of course, if you have anything that is or isn't on that list, hit me up. Anyways, thanks y'all so much for watching. You have a good one.